for the real world.
Let's talk about
Fundamentals of music theory.
Hello and welcome to Music Theory for the Real World, and in particular, Fundamentals of Music Theory. I'm your host, Ken Reed, and that's Garrett behind the camera. Fundamentals of Music Theory. Let's make sure we understand what it is that we're covering in this class. First, we're covering fundamentals, by which I mean the big picture, the first things, the primary cause. We're talking about fundamentals. Let's go back to the beginning.
You mean do, re, mi?
No, I mean the very beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness hovered over the face of the deep. And God said, let there be light. God created land, sky, the oceans, the fish and the bird, animals on the earth.
Plant life, vegetation, produce.
Why did he create all of that in 6 days?
Well, one, I suppose, is to bring glory to himself. And the second reason is that all of those things are beneficial and valuable to mankind. Was that even right?
Do you know that God really cares for mankind as the crown of his creation, as those who are given charge over all of creation? Our Fundamentals of Music Theory is going to be built around a catechism, and here is our first question. What is music? Surprisingly, it's a more confusing question than you might think. We all think we know what music is, but when you actually get to trying to define it, it becomes a bit elusive.
Is sound. Music is emotion, feeling, harmony of the spheres. Is intentional, beautiful, intellectual, and valuable. Probably not for you. Country and Western. Or glockenspiel.
It's our natural inclination to be either too broad or too narrow in our definition of music. You know, either we say that music is everything, including silence, at which point music is actually nothing. The word loses its meaning altogether. So we can't be too broad, but on the other hand, we tend to be too narrow in our definition when we first think of music, and we think of the style of music that I like best. So what is music, really?
Ooh, music is sound.
Thank you, Garrett, for answering my rhetorical question. Music is sound. Yeah, that noise could be sound, so that doesn't help us very much. We've got to refine it just a bit more than that. Music is sound.
Yeah. Organized sound.
Okay, good. Organized sound. That's a step closer. But you could say that a bird's call is organized sound. But you wouldn't really be able to analyze it as music, at least not for our purposes. So organized sound's a good start.
Humanly organized sound.
Oh, I like that. But what's to say that this isn't music? Okay, so what would it take to make that, though that's humanly organized sound, what would it take to make that music? Garrett? Well, that was good. So what you did just now was you took those sounds and you put them into some sort of sequence and repetition, and there was some meter to it, and it became more what we would call music instead of just humanly organized sound. So what made the difference? I suppose we could say it was humanly organized sound for the purpose of somehow communicating some emotion. It was communicating something. Even if it was abstract, it was communicating something. So music is sound that's been organized by people for the purpose of somehow communicating an emotional message of some sort. Now, how do we know what that emotional message is? How do we interpret it? And I suppose the answer would be that there are certain culturally defined norms that cause us to say, well, that was a humorous sound, or that was a very serious sound, or that was a romantic piece of music. In any case, that's where we start to delve into the realm of theory, when we start to interpret what that music was. There are 3 or 4 elements of music. Melody, which is a series of pitches.
There's rhythm, how those pitches unfold over time.
And then there's harmony, the vertical context of
Stratosphere.
yes.
Pitches.
And then there's
Sound.
different instruments sound different ways. So we might say that those are the 4 different elements of Western music.
Music.
So let's just review again. Fundamentals, we're talking about the big picture, and then music, we're talking about humanly organized sound for the purpose of communicating some sort of emotional message. Lastly, we deal with the word theory. What is music theory, after all? And our answer is music theory is the theory, because it's not fact, it is the theory of what makes music work. Now, when I say work, I mean sometimes a song works for me, it doesn't work for you, works for you, doesn't work for me. And so we have theory by which we can explain, now that was a good song, that was not a good song. That's what music theory is all about. Music theory doesn't actually create music. What music theory does is to analyze and break it down and try to figure out, so what makes it successful? What makes it work? So music theory, the answer to our question is, music theory is the theory of what makes music work.
Music theory for the real world.
Now I want to give you a discovery learning assignment, and that would be to take a piece of music that's just instrumental music and listen to it 3 times through. You want to make it a fairly short piece of music. Listen to this piece of music 1 time through, just purely on an emotional level, what Aaron Copland called the sensual level. You're just listening to how it makes you feel. It's eliciting some certain emotions in you. So just pay attention to that as you listen. Then listen to it a 2nd time, and you're listening on a little higher level here. Not just the sensual level, but the descriptive level. What I want you to do is think of it as if it was a dream sequence. So here we go. As you're listening to that song, you may start like a dream does, in one place and then wind up, I don't know where that came from, but it sort of went that direction. So sort of keep a journal of that and see, descriptively speaking, how that song unfolded. Then listen to that piece a 3rd time. And this time, we want to listen on what Copland called the sheerly musical level. We want to listen using music terms. Like, what instruments do I hear playing right now? How many instruments are playing? How are they articulating that? What key is this in? What's the time meter? Just 1,000 different musical questions, and you're describing what you're hearing on the purely musical level. Most people never get to that last level, the purely musical level, but that's what music theory does. It builds a vocabulary by which we can describe what it is that we're hearing, instead of just saying, it makes me feel good, or it sounds like butterflies in a field to me. Rather, we're able to use some much more accurate descriptions. That'll get us ready for session 2.
Fundamentals of music.